Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Hope you're all well. Hope you had a good weekend and a decent start to your week this week. We're talking a little bit today about some transfer rumours heading into the summer. We'll talk a little bit about Man City, obviously on Sunday. Talk about the Man City situation. And just sort of going forward, what this sort of next few months look like for Spurs as well. So a bit of a longer one today. So strap in, buckle up, all that jazz, and let's get into it. So let me talk a little bit about transfer rumours first. I think that's the thing that gets people most excited, especially when I look at some of the videos I've done. The one that got most people excited was the Harry Winks leaving for Sampdoria. It made us all pretty excited, I'm not going to lie. So this came from Alex the Gold, big tier one source of Spurs, is that Spurs are looking for two centre-halves in the summer. Quote-unquote, a dominant centre-half as well, looking for a central midfield option and a attacking option as well. So 4 players in the summer would be enough, in my opinion. It would be, with moving players on as well, though, right? So we already know Lucas Moura is going to be on his way out, but who else may go in the summer? That's important. So this sort of a tier one source ties in nicely with another pretty decent source. You know you're a good source for transfer rumours and gossip and what have you if Fabrizio Romano follows you. You already know that you're a good one. But this is from Team Talk. Now, Team Talk have said about Alessandro Bastoni. Now, Bastoni, we know that we wanted him last summer. There was touting about a €60 million deal. Didn't work out. He was going to sign a new contract, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to now, obviously being in February, he hasn't signed a new contract. I don't think he's going to sign a new contract personally, because if Inter are still having to sell all these players, do you want to go through a rebuild? So if they said, Bastoni should be available this summer to get for actually quite a discounted price. Now they said 13 million, 1-3. I don't see that happening whatsoever. If he was worth 13 million, there would be a massive auction between massive clubs to get him, right? So it's not going to be that. But they would also accept a exchange deal for a player, okay? Few things on that. Like I said, ignore the value of that. I think instead of 13 million, it'll be about 13 million, right? The player exchange situation, I can see it being 13 with a player, though. And I if they want a centre-half, they've lost, obviously, Milan Skriniar. He will be gone in the summer. Stefan de Vrij might be on his way out. Well, we've got Davinson Sanchez sitting there that, you could send it that way. He's good enough to start for a team like Inter. He's good enough for the Serie A. It would be a good move for him, for Spurs. And I think Inter, to be fair. I think Inter, maybe 13, sort of 15, maybe to 20 million plus Davinson Sanchez, I think is a good deal, especially for us. It's a great deal. A player that knows the Conte system, knows the players, quite a few players at the club, is left-footed, is pretty physical and a dominant centre-half and would play the left centre-back role, right? So first and foremost, that would be amazing. The central centre-back role is the other one that was been touted as this other centre-half that we want, right? So basically where Eric Dyer plays right now. Who that would be, I really don't know. Obviously in the summer they were talking about Kim Min-jae, but he moved to Napoli. They were talking about, obviously, Longley, Indica, Piero Hincapié, which I'd assume that's a deal that probably Spurs may revisit. They were talking about, obviously, Gvardiol, but I think Gvardiol is going to cost about 80 million. He's going to cost a stupid amount of money. I don't think Chelsea are going to be able to afford that. Man City situation, you can't really sit there and think they're going to be able to afford that. Real Madrid, they've got quite a few decent centre-halves at the moment. I don't see that happening. You probably find that, Bayern Munich will somehow come in and try and get him. Dortmund can't afford that sort of value for a player. PSG, it wouldn't surprise me if PSG somehow find a way to get in there and grab him. But in reality, you might find a Man United being interested in him. You might find an Arsenal, but actually, I don't think Arsenal will be interested in him. Arsenal have got 3 centre-halves doing the job at the moment, So, that could be an option. But if he's going to cost over half of your budget, when you can get a player of Bastoni's quality who's pretty much the exact same for half the price, if not more than half the price, then I think we go Bastoni. Knows the system really well. It just makes all the sense in the world. But the central centre-half, is it Pau Torres? Do they look at Gvardiol as well? Which, don't get me wrong, I think all Spurs fans would go, that's the dream. But then Spurs aren't going to spend that money. We all know that. So where do they go on that? You know, do they get a right-sided player? Do they get a left-sided player within that role? I don't know. But the idea of having a Bastoni, another brilliant centre-half, Romero, who played incredibly well at the weekend, and a big keeper behind, like an Oblak. I've always said Oblak. He's still the main guy that I want. David Raya, I think those rumours probably won't go away, but I would like Oblak personally. You can see why it all works, right? In terms of central midfield options, I do think it's a position where you think Basuma, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Skip, Pape Massissa are all quite similar players. I do think it's probably a player that can really go box to box really well. A player that will get forward, will offer us something. Who that player would be, if I had to speculate on a few different players, I don't see it being Alexis McAllister from Brighton. I think we got burned by Basuma, who's been just bang average at best. I don't see it being Maddison. I don't think Maddison offers you enough defensively for him to suit a Conte system. Who I would really like is a Nicolo Barella from Inter Milan. Brilliant player. Would absolutely smash it in the Premier League. Do I see Spurs spending 50, 60, 70 million on him? No, I don't. Milinkovic-Savic, Lazio seem to want about 400 million for him every single summer, so forget about him. You know, do we look at La Liga or the Bundesliga and see, what sort of central midfielders are sitting within those leagues? I don't know where we go with that. That's a really difficult one to predict. Do they go and get a dominant central defensive midfielder and allow Bentancur or Højbjerg to get forward? Do they go more of an attacking player? I don't really know. It doesn't seem to be a position where you can kind of put your thumb on it and say that's what they're going to do. But in terms of the attacking option, I kind of have a feeling I know who that will be. Within reason. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's that guy. It's that guy. It's going to be this amount. This is the deals are going to look like this. But you always seem to get linked with the same sort of names. And I can see as to maybe why this is. Now, this ties in so nicely with reports that came out of Marca in Spain that said, because of Atletico Madrid and Spurs have got this really good relationship at the moment, due to Sergio Reguilon, Matt Doherty, they're starting to build a really good sort of working partnership between the two. That they said Spurs are looking to capitalise on that and go after Oblak and Carrasco. Now, Carrasco is someone will be linked to multiple times. Plays left and right wing. He can play left and right wing back. So he offers a lot of versatility. He can play that sort of system that Conte plays, right? Those two together, if you said, look, 75, 80 million euros for those two together, I'd probably say yeah, if I'm honest. Those two, a couple of other players, let's say you spend 150, you sell some players, maybe Spurs' net spend is, I don't know, £75 million. They'd probably do that, to be fair. That's something they would do. Oblak would give us the starting goalkeeper that we want for the next sort of 5 years, 6 years. Yannick Carrasco, versatility at his absolute finest, can offer a lot to us. Quite a physical player, actually. Does take a good penalty. I know that as well, which is quite nice. Irrelevant, but nice. You can see how it would work, right? Do we go, Sergio Reguilon, do you like him? Do you want him? Let's get him part of the deal. Let's get these two players in. We'll send him back. So we get 2, you get 1. Let's send you some money with this as well. Maybe it is Sergio Reguilon, 60 million euros. Where do we go with that? That could work. That could absolutely work as well. So in terms of other attacking options, when we've been linked in the past, Anthony Gordon was one. That's obviously not going to happen. Wilfred Zaha has been linked to us quite a few times. I don't see that happening. He's getting a bit up there in age now. I don't really see that one happening. I don't really know. Do they regard Perisic as an attacking option? Because obviously you've got Destiny coming through in the summer. I'm not too sure, really. But I think Carrasco will probably be one of the top names on that list. But does that tie into the right wing-back situation? Obviously, Doherty's gone. Spencer's gone out alone. Had a really good debut game. One thing I did notice is, as much as he was great going forward and beating players and really looking like a right winger, if the ball got spun in behind, he wasn't always bombing it back. And that's something I did notice a little bit. And maybe that's what we hadn't seen in training, other than the clips of him doing step-overs and beating, an 18-year-old or whatever. is that what Conte saw and was like, can't have that in a team that requires your wing backs to be really aggressive and really bombing up and down. So yeah, 4 players, we'll have to sort of wait and see on that. Now coming on to Sunday, 4:30 kickoff against Man City and how that was. I think it was the first time I'd watched Spurs Man City and hadn't sat there on the edge of my seat crapping myself. You know when you just think Man City score at any given moment, they're going to score. They didn't really get that. I know Mahrez hit the bar, but other than that, I didn't really feel like they did a lot, if I'm honest. And I think we were really smart about how we hit them on the counter. You know, we waited for certain moments and Bentancur and Højbjerg really hit hard. Obviously, Højbjerg won the ball and got the assist to Kane for the goal. You know, Son looked up to it, which was really good. You know, when Son's up for a game and Kane's up for a game, we can beat everyone and anyone at any given moment, right? I thought Kulusevski was lively again, so the front 3 just started to go and get into motor. You know, I don't think they hit 4th or 5th gear, but, you know, they hit sort of top end of 2nd, early 3rd gear, which is at least something for the first time in a while. I thought defensively we had a really strong game. You know, I think the quietest of the games probably were Davies and Perisic, actually. You know, I thought they did good, but they didn't have a lot to do. You know, I thought Dyer had a solid game, nothing outlandish. You know, put his head on a lot of balls, got in the way of a lot of things, which is exactly what you want. I thought Romero was absolutely fantastic. Skip the red cards. You know, I saw about the first booking where he goes flying in on Haaland. You know, it's actually an outrageously good booking when you think about it, because if you know there's a guy sitting right behind you who's ready to absolutely clatter you at any time, you don't want to go over there. You don't want to start to work hard over there. You don't want to have to spin in behind because you're going to get crunched from behind and things like that. So I think that set the stall out for the game. The second booking, Grealish wins fouls. You know, and he's a bit of a tossing up process. It was coming, to be honest. And I thought Emerson was absolutely fantastic, by the way. We slander Emerson a lot, I think, as a fan base. He's putting millions of pounds into his training, into his health and lifestyle, into his overall fitness to become better. He was fantastic against Jack Grealish, you know. A couple of times he got done in behind, but made up for it, you know. Going forward, so much energy. You can never fail that energy. Actually, going forward-wise, I thought he was all right, actually. You know, it's quite difficult when you've been sitting back for so long. So when you do get the ball, to really have the energy to go and join the attack. But Emerson really did actually just kept buying more and more time, won a good amount of fouls. No one had a perfect game, but him and Højbjerg, I think, were fantastic. You know, I know Højbjerg won man of the match. I know Emerson won sort of the player of the match in terms of the fan voting for Spurs. But I thought those two were fantastic. I thought Højbjerg was the best midfielder on the pitch. You know, Rodri, I think, had a tough game. I think we really exploited that. I think Lewis, the youngster for Man City, I think we exploited him because obviously their fullbacks come to play in the midfield. And obviously we won the ball off of him and we scored. So I think Man City's always been a team that we've done very well against. I mean, 5 games for Pep at the stadium. He's lost all 5 and he's not scored 1. It's not just a fluke. It's starting to become a trend. And I actually know a Man City fan. I know. There is one in the world, I know. And I actually asked him, I think it was near the start of the season. I can't remember who they were playing, but I think they won or something like that. And I actually asked him, I said, about like Spurs and Man City, do Spurs kind of live rent-free a little bit in Man City's heads? And he spun around. He was like, mate, you have no idea how badly you live in our heads. Which I find mad, by the way, absolutely mad. But I do think it's actually true. I think there is a mental thing with Man City that they really don't like Spurs. It might be because obviously that first season where they were starting to look to get Champions League football and Crouch scored that goal at the Etihad to basically knock them out of Europe. Maybe it was that, I don't know. But yeah, it was a great performance. I think looking ahead now, we have a lot of good fixtures coming up. There are 1 or 2 spotty games, but in reality, we're playing a lot of teams in the bottom half of the table. We should be looking to take quite a few points now. We're in that top 4 race. Let's capitalise now on this sort of big win. Let's string 5, 6, 7 in a row. Let's try and do that, you know, or let's try and go unbeaten for 10 games. Let's try and really start to just get the guys behind us away from us. Because all it takes a couple of bad games, you never know, Chelsea and Liverpool start to climb the table a little bit. You know, Brentford, Brighton and Fulham are all playing quite well. I know obviously we beat Fulham not too long ago, but they're playing quite well at the moment. You know, we need to make sure that, you know, Man United are on this really great run of form. Newcastle are obviously one of the best defences in the world at the moment. We need to make sure that we capitalise now, use this energy, use this momentum, and let's go and take ourselves up the table now. Because I do see us getting top four. I really, really do. But we need to really hone in and really exploit this moment now. Just a little sort of my sort of 2 cents on the Man City situation. So Man City, if you weren't aware, have been charged with, I think it's 116. Don't quote me exactly, but it's in that ballpark. They've been charged with 116 cases of basically breaking FFP. So FFP, financial fair play. I think a lot of it is saying, this is our revenue. It's up here, but actually the revenue's here. But you see, there's the issue. If your revenue isn't what you say it is, and it's less, then you should be able to spend less for financial fair play. That is the really basic term of it. Okay, I'm not gonna really go into the sort of T&Cs and the FAQs of it all, but that is kind of like really a basic version. The more you make, the more you can spend, right? Now, when you lie about what you can spend, because this is what you've made, this is what you said you've made, you have an issue. This all plays a part into sort of wages and transfer fees and that sort of thing. And this is all over a span of about 4 years. It's quite a long time. What my opinion is on it, what I think is going to happen from it. One, obviously, I think it's awful. I do think it's awful. You know, one thing you can say about Spurs, ironically, is because we don't spend any money, FFP really isn't our issue. You know, we should be charged for not spending enough money, right? This is a massive problem in football because this inflates markets. This makes players who are worth 20 million, 40 million, who are worth 40 million, 80 million. And that is a problem for teams that maybe can't spend that much sort of money. Your PSGs can spend that money. Your Cities obviously have spent that money. Chelsea spent 600 million in the last 2 windows. And these are all things that play a part. And I'm not even talking about little teams. I'm just talking about bigger teams that maybe just can't spend as much. You know, Arsenal have had, I think they've pretty much sorted the Emirates debt, but they had Emirates debt for a while. They couldn't spend money. Liverpool have been trying to sort out Anfield. You know, they've been spending money here and there, but, you know, obviously they are wary of FFP. You know, Spurs have had to build a new stadium. They're obviously very wary of FFP. You know, all these things play a massive part into Man City just climbing the table and just running away with things, you know, which, by the way, makes all the job that Jurgen Klopp has done absolutely amazing because they've sold and spent the money correctly. They've not overspent it and done what Man City have done or Chelsea have done. But you think Man United have spent a lot of money. Now, they make a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money, which inflates the market. Real Madrid do the same thing. Barca are massive, I'd assume FFP must be knocking at Barca's door pretty soon. Maybe not this year, but because they sold off a lot of things, I can see in the future how it can come back and bite them in the backside. all these things play a massive part. But it's come out today, and this has come out really recently from The Athletic. So great source, obviously some of the best journalists in the world work for The Athletic. And it says that actually a lot of the teams in the Premier League are hoping Man City, and they are pushing for Man City to get relegated from the league. Now that could be very destructive to Man City. That could cause them real issues in terms of they might fold. They're paying players millions of pounds, you know. Dropping them into the Championship, they lose hundreds of millions per year. They can't physically afford it. They would basically have to sell, I'd say, anyone that's on anything 100k or above, which is most of their squad. They've got a lot of great youngsters, but they'd have to do that, or they'd have to take pay cuts, right? Which footballers don't really want to do because, you know, if you told me, this is the wage I'm supposed to be paid, I want that money, you know. We wouldn't take pay cuts at our jobs. Same thing for them. It's a fair play on that. The top 6 are the teams that are really pushing it, though. So before anyone thinks, look at us at Brentford, look at us at, you know, West Ham, Brighton, Fulham, Palace, they're probably pushing it, but the top 6 are really, really behind this idea. Probably because they want an easier time in the Premier League and be able to have more of a share of the market and pick who they really want. But at the same time, they're really pushing for it. Should we laugh at their downfall of Man City? No, we don't know what's going to happen. I personally think they don't get relegated. What I personally think is they get a points deduction from next season and a big fine. So I can see it being a 15, anywhere between 15 and a 30 points deduction, which, by the way, they won't get relegated, so don't worry about that. And I see them getting a fine, 15, 20 million, something like that, something quite a chunk, because they want to show, like, hey, we mean serious business. Serious business means relegating them, but I think that's what they do. I think you have to be a bit more realistic in the situation. I don't see how the Premier League will throw Man City to the fire and just basically watch the club basically burn and fold. It's not the fans' fault. It's not the players' fault. They shouldn't be the ones punished. So there's my 2 cents on that. But guys, there's a longer video today. Loads of things to talk about. Obviously, talking about the summer transfer market and where that goes. Talking about Man City's game, obviously, at the weekend against us. Talking about Man City's situation. There's a lot there. But obviously, guys, hit the like button, obviously, to let me know that you're liking it. Hit me with some comments on that. There's a lot in there. I'm happy to read anything you want to send me in. Obviously, hit the subscribe button if you're watching this and you are new. Glad you are here if you are going to do that. And obviously, hit the bell notification for more of these things to come. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the video. And I hope you all look after yourselves. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care, lads.